Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talkative Thursdays series, a 4-episode podcast part of Eurodesk's Time to Move campaign. I'm your host, Stefanos, and today we have an exciting episode for you on mental health and going abroad. We will be diving into the world of mental health and how it is connected to young people on mobility programs abroad. Joining us are our special guests, Eva Reina, ERICA Director, Eric Kota, Project Manager of European Projects at EACEA and a licensed psychologist, and Joanna Licha, former participant of the Erasmus Plus Youth Exchange. Thank you all for joining us here today. So let's get started. Eva, I will start with you. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, Stefanos. Thank you very much for inviting me and inviting Erica to participate in this podcast. My name is Eva Reina. As you mentioned, I'm the director of ERICA, which is the European Youth Information and Counseling Agency. We are based in Luxembourg, and we are a big organization covering 43 structures in 27 countries. And ERICA is like Eurodesk. We are an association of youth information services and networks. And while Eurodesk focuses on youth-friendly information on mobility and participation opportunities in Europe, ERICA's work is more based on what we call the concept of generalist youth information services, which means any topic that can be interesting for young people, which may include basically anything, from health and access to social rights, to education, volunteer, or employment opportunities. It's basically everything.
Great, thank you very much, Eva. And Eric, I move on to you. Could you please also introduce yourself?
Hello, I am a psychologist and the project manager at the Research and Development Department of EACEA. EACEA is a non-profit mental health organization that aims to psychosocially support and empower vulnerable people. Now, in the field of youth, we are very active. We have created a network of youth centers throughout the country that it is called Connect Your City. At Connect Your City, young people can join and participate in educational and volunteering activities, but also they get trained on how to create and lead their own initiatives.
Great, thank you very much. And Joanna, do you want to also share some words about yourself?
Yes, thank you for inviting me in a podcast where, basically, we can share I can share my experiences with mental health issues. I am a student. I'm 19 years old. I come from Poland, but since since 1 month I'm studying in the Netherlands, so I also can compare how it is to deal with mental health issues, studying abroad, but also taking part in a youth exchange.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you all again for being here. And Eva, I will start with you with the first set of questions. So Erica is currently involved in a project called Why Minds. And could you tell us a bit more about the project?
Yes, of course. So Why Minds, or E-Minds, we don't know very well sometimes how to call the project, stands for Youth Information Minding Young People's Mental Health. It is actually born from an imminent need, I would say, expressed by youth information providers to better be prepared to provide support to young people in distress. So let's put a bit of the context. In 2021, after the pandemic, we conducted a very short survey among young people and also among youth workers, where we tried to understand, have a look into how the pandemic had affected the well-being of young people. And we collected around 2,000 testimonials from young people in 42 countries. And these stories were, I have to say, quite harsh sometimes. They show that young people have had been suffering a lot from the pandemic situation. And above all, they all express a very strong need to be heard. And on the other hand, we also talked to youth workers. We asked them if actually they had experience as well through their services. Something that became as well very evident is that they felt very unprepared. So we tried to find solutions to this. Firstly, eMinds tried to provide, on the one hand, answers for youth workers to develop like knowledge, skills, and attitudes towards mental health distress from different perspectives, considering that, of course, a youth worker is not an expert in mental health, and that the answers have to be commensurate to the role and to their position. But also, we see that there is a role for youth workers and youth information workers to provide first-hand support, to relate to other youth services, to relate to other professionals, to mental health services. And they also play a very important role in prevention. And at the same time, there is a role as well in when there are issues already there to try to accompany the young person to find the right services that could provide some help. But yeah, we found that there was a need indeed to put this role more clear and to find guidelines and support. And this is what we are trying to do with eMinds. We are developing a guide on that. We are developing as well some podcasts. We are developing different resources for youth workers. And at the same time, we are also planning to develop some support for young people, like a mental health resilience toolkit. We are in the process of developing a campaign targeting young people as well to address the stigma related to mental health issues.
Amazing. So it's not gonna be only a publication. It's gonna be, a bigger campaign with podcasts as well, and a lot of information. And could you also explain us a bit what do we mean by youth information workers, so our audience can better understand what we mean by this term?
Sure. I explained this a little bit when I was introducing myself, but youth information is basically relates to any kind of information that is of interest for young people and that can support their autonomous decision making and can have definitely an impact in their lives. It is meant to be, quality youth information is information that is first accessible and understandable for young people, so it's youth friendly. Sometimes there are certain aspects that even like mental health is something that might be a bit difficult to understand for young people too. So it's about supporting young people in understanding and processing information that is objective, that is non-biased, that is supporting their needs, and at the same time that is helping them to make decisions that will have an impact in their lives.
Great, thank you very much. And now let's dig a bit into the survey itself. So I'm really curious to hear about the responses. So could you tell us what are the most frequent causes of a decline in young people's mental health according to the survey?
Well, we interviewed in our survey around 400, a bit less than 400 youth workers from 15 countries, and they express very overwhelmingly that the most frequent warning signs are sadness, depression, and this feeling of being hopeless as well, anxiety, academic pressure, and helplessness as well. And yeah, the reasons for these feelings, warning signs are very diverse, but we could see pretty much decline regarding the feeling of security among young people, feeling of security about the future, combined with low self-esteem, anxiety, a lot of issues related to screen addiction, and some social isolation that's sometimes a bit related to screen addiction as well. Pressure from school to deliver, to be good at school, loneliness, and of course some issues related to the family problems and issues at home.
I will touch upon what you said about feeling insecure about the future. What do we mean by that? Do we mean job-wise?
Well, we didn't go so deep into the survey, but I think this is a bit more like my personal opinion. I think we live in a context that is not easy for young people to cope. I mean, there's been a crisis following COVID, of course. Economics, the economy is not at the best moment. We are seeing inflation raising prices. The cost of living is becoming more difficult. And I mean, young people have always have difficulties, I would say, to access the job market in general. There is a transition that is a hard one. At least I remember that when I was younger, that period of insecurity when you finish school and you need to transition into finding a job and becoming independent. So climate anxiety as well has been developed for, we're seeing all these problems happening as well with the climate change. And so I think the context is a context that doesn't provide a positive feeling for young people towards the future, and which doesn't mean that they have to see everything black. And there are solutions, but we have to have the good resources and being supported and be provided with help to overcome the anxiety or the insecurity that this situation may cause.
So we need some kind of protocols and guidelines for youth information workers to deal with mental health. But are there any specific skills that the youth information workers need to improve when it comes to supporting young people's mental health?
Yes, we identify the respondents, I would say, of our survey identify that strongly is the empathy and active listening. It's the first skill that you need to have in these cases, but in general as a youth information worker, but more particularly when it comes to mental health. So yes, there is this lack of resources regarding mental health, specific, and the lack of networks as well has been raised as something that could be useful indeed to improve skills and to be more equipped. But yeah, I would say that basic knowledge of mental health and of course active listening and empathy are very, very key.
Great. Thank you very much, Eva, for sharing this important information. And now I move to you, Eric. You are a licensed psychologist, so I'm really wondering what are some common mental health challenges that young people may face when they go abroad?
The most common one is culture shock, and is a feeling that everyone experiences, not just young people. So picture this, that you are suddenly in a brand new place. Streets look different, people talk differently, and even the way they interact can seem foreign to you. This is pretty much a culture shock. It can be quite jarring, and for some it can also lead to anxiety and also even depressive episodes. On top of that, many young people, especially those that are traveling abroad for their first time, are away from their family, friends, and that comforting home cooked meal. This absence of familiar faces and places often manifests as loneliness, or how we call it, homesickness. It's like there is this void where all the familiar comfort used to be. Adapting to a new culture is a challenge itself. We shouldn't forget about the smaller details that we have to comfort. There might be new, let's say, academic pressures, or figuring out how the public transportation works. This stresses me a lot when I'm traveling abroad, or even finding and locating a place where you can socialize. It's actually a cauldron of changes, and navigating them all can really weigh on someone's mental health.
Are there any specific, either coping strategies, resources that you personally recommend for young people facing mental health challenges when they are abroad?
The first thing I would recommend might sound a little bit contradictory, but is staying connected. We are fortunate to live in a digital age, and a video call to your family or a close friend can work wonders. Just seeing a familiar face, even on a screen, can provide immense relief. But the contradiction in this is that in this age of technology, while it's tempting to constantly update and scroll through social media, it's essential to limit the screen time, because if we are constantly plugged in, it might make us feel more distant from our current environment. So balance is the key. We need to be present. On top of that, we can maintain a structured schedule. For instance, waking up at a consistent time, setting aside, let's say, dedicated moments for meals, studying, and assuring that our night's sleep is good enough. But to truly immerse oneself, local engagement is invaluable. This means like diving into local workshops, maybe signing up for a dancing class, learning traditional cooking methods, or attending community events. Engaging in these local activities can give you that comforting sense of belonging in a new place. You can talk to previous mobility participants who have been on the same program, or even to the same place. Can be enlightening for you. For those that are adventurous at heart, consider traveling, let's say, in groups. I like to explore with peers, especially fellow students, that make the experience less daunting and far more enjoyable. If you feel that something is too much for you, it's perfectly okay to say no. I don't want to participate in this event. I don't want to do anything today. Prioritizing our well-being is vital. But if you ever feel lost, reach out to a program coordinator. And even if ever things seem too overwhelming, never hesitate to seek professional help. Local therapists and counselors can offer coping mechanisms tailored to the unique challenges of the country or culture someone is in. Mental health can be a subtle thing, so we need to take care of it a lot.
Is it possible to limit the screen time? I don't know. Like speaking with the people that I know that they're younger than me and they go abroad on mobility programs. They are always, on their phones, social media, and so on.
I think that sometimes spending time on social media can be a coping mechanism, maybe to escape from the reality. So in the long term, spending too much time on social media and so on cannot be really profitable for our mental health. For example, if we use Instagram, we can start to compare ourselves with another people. And if we have mental health issues, anxiety, or some fears, then we can basically get into a vicious circle. So it helped me a lot to have support from my parents, to have support from my friends in Poland. But actually, it's also important, I think, to look for some community meetings. Maybe, for example, for me, it was going to library, going to the gym, just to have the feeling that we are in the society and that we are not alone.
Young people that travel abroad, I wouldn't recommend them to fully limit the time they spend on their screen, but how they use social media. Because I've met young people traveling abroad that they were sticking into their phones, trying to be connected with familiar faces and avoiding, let's say, making new friends. So we need that balance. And also keep in mind that if you are joining many social events in the new country that you live, you are going to meet new people that you need to stay digitally connected.
Eric, can you also tell us how can young people recognize when their mental health is being affected when they are abroad?
Great point. Where they actually might notice they are sleeping too much or too little. Maybe their eating patterns have been changed, or perhaps they are feeling overwhelmed more often than not. If, let's say, social events which once excited them now seem like a burden, it's a potential sign. It's very important to check in with oneself regularly and gauge how we are feeling.
One point is to reach out to trusted people. Let's say if it's a mobility program abroad, you will always have from the university, from your exchange university, a person that you can reach to. If it's an Erasmus student exchange, a youth worker that is in charge of your exchange. If it's a solidarity corp, there should be the hosting organization that you can reach out to. Could you also tell us if there are any practical, tips or techniques that young people can incorporate into their daily, routine to support their mental health during when they are abroad? Many times we've been told you need to drink a lot of water.
Well, drinking water is actually good, but we still need to keep a balance on it. What I use for myself is mindfulness and meditation that can be incredibly grounding. I also like to set small goals that can give me a sense of purpose, like exploring a new place every day, or learning 10 phrases every day in the local language. And integration is vital. We need to dive into that local culture, be it through events, through cooking classes, even through clubs. These activities help us to engage and build a sense of community, but we need also to understand the context that support us. Apart from tips and tricks and pros, there is also a supportive context because many mobility participants don't realize that their European health insurance often includes mental health services that they can refer to. Also, we shouldn't forget that cities usually have NGOs or organizations dedicated to mental well-being. And some are specific to expats or international students. And for those, of course, that prefer a more digital approach, there are plenty of platforms that can offer online counseling or even guidelines, and it can provide a blend of convenience.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. And now, Joanna, I come to you as a young person to share, your perspective. So can you briefly describe to us about your youth exchange experience abroad?
It was 2 years ago. I was almost 17. It was the worst time of my life because I was struggling with family issues, with eating disorders, also existential crisis. I was into getting into really difficult program in English in high school, and I was basically stressed about it, that I need to do it everything now and so on. And also there was like a change that after the project, one day after the project, I needed to change my place of living to dormitory. So totally a lot of changes. And because of I am a perfectionist and overthinker, overanalyzer, I had a lot of stress about the future, how it would be. And that was the main cause of why I got my panic attacks during the project in Spain. Actually, it was also because of the culture. Polish culture and Spanish culture are totally different when it comes to meals times. It totally my routine of meals was totally ruined. The time of waking up, the time of going to sleep. So actually, there were a lot of changes, and that is why I felt stressed. I felt anxious generally. The same situation I could see about the time when I got into my university and changed the country where I live since I have been living since 3 months. Also, a lot of new changes worsen my mental health because generally I struggle with anxiety disorders. But when I see when it's like too much changes, especially if you are an overthinker and perfectionist and also too ambitious person, it can basically uh, worsen the whole situation.
What did you do once you start experiencing, those issues?
I came to my coordinator, basically together, found some solutions how I can feel safer, how I can feel basically better and enjoy the time more. I don't regret it. I learned a lot about myself, how to cope better with my situation, not to be afraid to ask for help. If you basically feel that it's not your fault, a panic attack or your health issue is not your fault. So basically, don't be afraid to ask for help. I learned it, and that helped me a lot. Even if then in Poland, there was always the feeling that of shame, that basically it's my fault, it's shame.
Is there any advice that you want to give to either young people that they want to go on a mobility program abroad, but they are a bit scared of culture shock, of being away from their families, or also to participants that they are already there and experiencing similar challenges.
Do what you like, find the balance between the project, between your studies if you are doing exchange program, but then it's I think good to talk about it with coordinator, with someone who can help you basically to find some activities where you can find new people, even if you are introvert. Is I think one of the best tools basically for stress, for fear and anxiety. Um, Also, you can go and see, for example, a therapist or psychologist who can help you to understand um, yourself better, but also your situation. And sometimes really conversation with someone else, someone whom you trust, also may aid you, as well as if you don't have yet a person whom you trust, you can basically write something down, like put your thoughts and emotions out of your head, not to analyze. And sometimes also what I saw, for example, here during my holidays, when I haven't had work yet, that's like the boredom, because I didn't have like anything almost to do. I was sometimes I felt stuck at home, lonely in another country like 2 months ago, after like only 3 weeks of living in the Netherlands alone. That basically, if you have some activities, it basically can help you to basically forget about basically your thoughts, because thoughts are only the thoughts. It's not you, and it's important to remember that the thoughts are not the reality. They are just thoughts. So you can imagine, for example, a heaven, and the thoughts are only like the clouds, and the clouds are moving, the thoughts are moving also. So basically, like to go to the gym, go to meet new people, or basically focus or something what you like. And sometimes really like too much of, let's say, time without any plans, and living without routine can basically, as in my example, worsen your fears.
Great. Thank you very much, Joanna, for sharing this with us.
Writing down your emotions, it is a very good point, and it is one of my favorite, let's say, personal coping mechanisms, journaling. So it's like having a conversation with oneself. True, it can provide you clarity, and sometimes when you pen down your feelings, you can see solutions that you hadn't thought of before. So it's a really good method to write how we feel and what is in our mind. And of course, we forgot to mention the physical activity that Joanna correctly said. And sometimes it's not just about hitting the gym or lifting weights. Unless that's your thing. But a walk in a park or even some light stretches in your room can help alleviate feelings of anxiety.
Indeed, even maybe also, a walk in the park, and change a bit scenery can help you as well.
What I can add also, one of my passion is dancing. So basically, also during my programs, my my exchange program, but also here, like basically putting like the music, which I basically like, the music which is compatible to my emotions at a moment, and just improvising, just being in the moment of flow really helps me to express my emotions. So basically, also through art, you can express your emotions, what you feel. It can be singing, it can be dance, as in my case, but also you can find another things, for example, drawing. And you don't need to be an expert or have a talent. Basically, just um, doing it for your own to express your emotions.
Yeah, and doing something you like, that you are enjoying doing. You mentioned a lot, Eric and Joanna, about when young people they're having mental health issues abroad, they should reach out to a trainer or the person responsible for the project. And I would like also to get Eva's opinion on that, on what role do organizations or universities play in promoting mental health, for participants when during the mobility programs.
I think it's important to be prepared as well. There is a preparation to be made before going to a country, like Joanna mentioned, pretty much, the cultural shock of different eating times in Spain. And I totally know what she means, because I'm actually Spanish. So we have a very special type of, it's probably the craziest eating schedule in Europe. Yeah, jokes apart, I think it's very important to have these preparatory aspects before the young person goes abroad. So you are a bit less confronted in show, so you know how things work. So I think youth information services can definitely play a very important role in these preparatory periods, before the person goes. But also giving some tools as well for mental health resilience. So, okay, if you find yourself in this situation, this is what you can do. If you need help for this, there is this youth information service also in this country that can help you during your stay, in case you need to find accommodation or you need health support or whatever thing. And this is the importance of, I mentioned a lot about networking, not only in the community where the youth information service is, but also with other youth information services in other countries. And this is part of the reason for being for organizations like ERICA or Eurodesk, is that there are partnerships that happen internationally and that can actually accompany the young person in their parcours. So even if they move from one country to another, they always have a place where they can go and they can ask questions and get support about it. So, and I think it's also important that in general that we promote a culture of understanding and openness, and we talk about mental health in a more open way without any stigma, because like that, the young person that is already experiencing some issues can talk about them without any kind of shame or without seeing it as a taboo. And definitely the youth information worker or the coordinator of the exchange can be better prepared as well to provide support to the young person.
I want to ask the same question to you, Eric, because I know you in your organizations you are also hosting volunteers from abroad.
They should be well prepared to face even the most unpredictable things. They need to recognize if there is any distress. They need to listen actively, to analyze more the situation and the context of the young people, and they need to refer to the correct persons. We are fortunate to be, let's say, a mental health organization, and most of the instructors or the facilitators or trainers are somehow relevant to the area of mental health and well-being, and this is something that we have kind of covered by default, but we advise everyone to understand more mental health and how well-being of young participants can be improved.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric. And I now have, a last question to all of you to close this episode. So are possible mental health problems a reason for a young person not to go abroad on a mobility program? What do you think? Maybe we can start with you, Joanna.
I would advise to talk to your coordinator of the project about your situation. If I can add, if you are struggling with thoughts that, for example, you want to die or you are thinking about suicide, I think it's like maybe really serious, and basically going abroad, another challenge, can worsen your situation a lot. So that's, I think, one of the few conditions that in this condition, I think, in so serious depression, in my opinion, I wouldn't recommend to undertake another challenge.
Great, thank you very much, Joanna. And I come to you, Eva, with the same question. What do you think?
If you are moving from a context to another context, you have to try to find that community of care. And I think there is a role for youth information professionals to accompany the young person to find this community of care. Actually, I think if we are well informed about how to find this community of care or social system where we feel accompanied and supported, and where we find things that help us to not to cope, not to focus on the problem we have or how we feel. As I always said, you can always go back, there is always an option. So you go abroad, it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. If at the extreme you don't feel good and you want to go back, there's always an option to go back, and that's also reassuring, I would say. And we shouldn't avoid talking about that possibility too, because it can be a solution at a certain extreme or in certain cases, and it's okay. It's not a problem in there.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eva. And Eric, you have the last words. Same question to you.
I totally agree with Joanna and Eva, and I would like to add that mental health problems and distress doesn't indicate weakness. Everyone at some point or another, they might face emotional and psychological challenges. What is essential is to acknowledge those feelings and to seek the right channels to cope and thrive. So if you feel that you have and you are facing mental health distress, you can consult a therapist, and always keep in constant communication with the organizations, so they can understand what are your needs, so they can be better prepared and you can be better informed.
Thank you very much, all. That's all the time we had today. A big thank you to all of you, Eva, Eric, and Joanna, for sharing your insights and experiences with us. And to our audience, having mental health issues should not stop you from going abroad, and on the contrary, sometimes it's part of the experience, and we should be well informed about those issues. So thank you very much, and as always, stay tuned for more episodes of the Talkative Thursdays.